Hi, everyone. Good morning. This is Matthew Cruz. I'm going to be sharing with you the May supply demand report that came out at 11 a.m. I'll let you quickly read through the disclaimer. Coming into today's report, I think the market was looking for a lot of negative news, and that was kind of confirmed, I would say, in general. So most everyone got what they were looking for. We got a lot of information to kind of go through here quickly. So starting with the 22-23 grain ending stock. So this report was unique because we get our first look at the 23-24 grain ending stocks, and we'll touch on that here. But starting out with the 22-23 grain ending stocks, we already start out with on the wrong foot. They increase grain ending stocks from 1.342 billion to 1.417, a little bit higher than what the average estimate was looking for. In soybeans, not too different here. We ended up at 215 versus last time at 210. So not a huge difference there. A little bit of increase in the wheat. They ended up at 598, pretty close what the average trade was looking for, 568. So looking at production for next year, we've kind of seen these numbers and yields already thrown about, but the USDA, is kind of continuing to double down on them. So looking at a production of corn production overall of 15.26 billion bushels, and that compares to 13.7 from last year. So quite a big jump, about a 1.5 billion bushel increase, and a lot of that's just due to yield. Of course, the increase in acres as well, but I think the yield has a bigger impact on that. So we're at 181.5 is what the USDA pegged that at. And of course, last year at 173.3. And so that's where we're seeing this big jump in overall production, is just because the USDA is expecting basically record yields. And I think a lot of that is just due to the pending El Nino that a lot of the climate forecasters are calling for. And so looking at the soybeans, are at 4.5 billion bushels. So a little bit higher than what the average trade was looking for, not a lot. You can see that's up from last year as well. And then that's based off a yield of 52 bushels per acre. So about 2.5 bushels more than what we saw last year, and a little bit higher again than what the trade was looking for. So if we take those numbers and we put that into the balance sheet, say what is the this is a year out, but what is this going to do for ending stocks in the 23-24 season? And so this is where we get the bad news really starts to come in, why the market from new crop has been heading lower and continues to head lower. The corn production ending stocks come at over 2.2 billion bushels. Now it's already started to been creeping up. Last year I just showed you in the 22-23 we're expected to end up at 1.4. And so we're going to have assuming what these numbers that the USDA come out with are true, we're going to see that jump from 1.4 up to 2.2 billion bushels. And so I've talked a little bit in the past about how, historically, when we were at that $3.50 to $4 in corn price level, we were roughly at that 2 to 2.2 billion bushel carryover level. And so this is, what the market has kind of been expecting. I was hoping that a lot of that negative information was already kind of built into the market today, but it looks like it just was more bad news and just kind of confirmed what a lot of the bears were looking for. So in the soybeans, it leans slightly negative. I wouldn't say near as negative as the corn, but it's probably just going to get drugged down with it. It came in at 335 million bushels, a little bit higher than what the average trade was looking for at 293, and increase to 215. Now I say it's not near as negative as the corn just because historically 335 million bushels for soybeans is still on the low end. We've had, I think it was 2017 or 2018 when we had 3 times that amount. We had almost 1 billion bushels in ending stocks, and here we are, say 335 million bushels. And so and yet the market is moving lower because of that. So yeah, it's historically speaking that it's really not that negative a scenario in the soybeans, but since the corn is so bad, it might just get drugged down with it. The wheat was probably the only thing that had, moderately good news. They came in at 556 million bushels, so actually down from where we're at now by 598 million bushels. And so that's why you're seeing wheat trade up for the day. It is maybe providing some support to the corn as well. This was probably the most frustrating part, looking at what the USDA came with their Brazil and Argentinian numbers. Brazil remained firm at 155 million metric tons, so pretty close to where CONAB is at now. But they actually raised their corn estimates from 126 last month to 130, which I think the average trade was more at that 126, 127 level. So they actually exceeded that, which I don't think that there's enough out there yet. The crop's not quite for long to really, increase it that much. I guess it was just surprising. I think they're getting a little bit ahead of themselves. But in addition to that, all we hear and read about is how bad the crop is in Argentina, and the local crop exchanges continue to downgrade the crops. Just recently we read that they're continuing to cut forecasts to almost 20 million metric tons, and the USDA today didn't change them at all. They kept them exactly the same, 27 million metric tons for soybeans and 37 for corn. And you can see here with the where they were at last month. Excuse me. I think that these are actually the what the average trade was looking for, and so the trade was looking for lower numbers for sure, and that didn't happen. And at the very least, they could have, dropped it a couple to be coming within the average. They didn't necessarily have to get down lower, but it was just very odd that the USDA did not reduce those at all and left those the same when that's what everybody and their cousin and their uncle is talking about, how the crop is getting smaller there. And so so it's very puzzling why the USDA didn't change those numbers, and I think just kind of added fuel to the fire. Of course, we got to talk about the global ending stocks. So again, this is 22-23 season, looking at corn at 297.4, a bit higher than what the average trade was looking at. Last month we were at 295. Soybeans 101, so a bit higher than what the average trade was looking for, but not too far off. Similar situation in the wheat at 266 million metric tons, just a slight bit more than what the average trade was looking for. So no real surprise in there, but this is where things start to get ugly here, looking at the global ending stocks. So this is worldwide what ending stocks are for corn, beans, and wheat for the 23-24 season. So, if we're at 297.4, we're jumping up to 312 million metric tons for corn worldwide, and that's a fair bit higher than what the average trade was looking at. They were looking for 307, and the soybeans, they're looking at 107, and they got 122, and so quite a bit more. You can see basically worldwide we're starting to add, not just the U.S., Brazil, but all over the world. We're adding more ending stocks, and we're gonna we're starting to overproduce again, basically, is what the USDA is pointing out here. So looking at wheat, we're at 264, and average was at 259, so a little bit more than what the average trade was, but wheat's probably the only crop or commodity that didn't have a negative report today. So pretty negative in corn, and maybe moderately negative in the beans, depending on how you're looking at it. So this just gives you a little bit different picture of what was changed in the balance sheet. So you can kind of see last reports, April to May, what changed. And the only thing that they reduced here was the exports. And so, that was kind of expected. I think that just lower exports, just because our corn is not priced competitively compared to Brazil right now. And so our exports continue to drop. And of course, we've seen China canceling a lot of their previously purchased corn and old crop to get cheaper corn in Brazil. And so that did increase ending stocks for 22, but then where we add another column here, you can compare that to 23, 24. We see the bigger yield here, 181.5 bushels per acre that we talked about. So we're already starting a little bit higher for beginning stocks at 1.4 billion bushels. And with that big production of 15.26, we just aren't eating through it quick enough. And so that's how we end up with this 2.2 billion bushel ending stocks level. And honestly, it's going to be hard to maybe even stay above $5 corn with that high of ending stock level. Looking at soybeans, the only thing they made a modest adjustment, increasing imports by 5 million bushels, and that again, that could be, we've seen some reports of the U.S. Certain end users in the southern part of the country importing beans from Brazil just because they're that much cheaper, and so that could be that they're just making accommodations for that. But you see acreage is about the same, but we see the increase of 2.5 bushels per acre. I'd point out if we yielded the same as last season, which wasn't necessarily a bad yield, the ending stocks wouldn't be that much different. They'd be closer to the low 200s. But we got to put something in, and so we put in 52 bushels per acre, and that's not unreasonable if we get good weather, and that's increases our ending stocks here to this 335 million bushel level. Looking at wheat. Again, wheat should have a good day, but they didn't make any changes here from last month to May. Looking at the 23-24 season, this is where we see a reduction in wheat supplies at 556 in ending stocks compared to 598. So wheat ending stocks are obviously going a little lower, and that's a little bit helpful then to the market price. Looking at corn, this is December corn chart. Like you can see here, it just looks like crap. We just can't get anything going. Continue to move lower, and here we, at one point in the day, this has probably happened right after the market came out. We had a slight jump here, and before the sellers came in and kind of took over, and came in and made a new low for the day. So yeah, this is not the close, but down 4 at the moment, and we did break below our latest support here, and so yeah, it doesn't get much worse than this. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. So we need to stop making new lows here and start forming a bottom. And I was hoping we had that done around that 515 level, but we broke it below that. So we needs to start getting some good news in here pretty soon. Looking at soybeans, kind of a similar situation here. This is not the close, but these November soybeans were down 16 at the moment, and yeah, very similar situation where we broke through this 1250 support area at 1230 right now, and we're just not getting enough good news, unfortunately, and they just got another dose of bad news today. So wheat here is this is not the close again, but it's up 12, so this is the only good news I can give you for the day. I don't know if it's going to be enough yet to kind of go up and make a new high again, but we like to see it get back above this, break above this 690, and kind of move back up in the $7 range if we can keep that momentum going. So if you're a bull, you're going to point out the drought in Argentina, which the USDA ignored today conveniently. There are parts of Brazil, the state of Paraná, where the safrinha corn is behind schedule. As a whole, the safrinha corn crop got in on schedule. Places in Mato Grosso are going to produce very well. But I think we are seeing the dry season already begin there, and so I think there are going to be some areas there in the state of Paraná that really needed rain through the month of May and are not going to get it. And so that's why it didn't make sense to me to increase the safrinha corn yield by that much right now. Looking at you point out that there's going to be North Dakota is behind schedule at the moment, but it is drying out, so they probably could catch up yet here late May. But It's still dry in fairly significant areas in the Western Corn Belt. I think last I saw as much as nearly 30% in the Corn Belt is leaning towards the dry side. There's a lot of confusion yet and uncertainty about the grain corridor ending, and so I think that could be some provide some bullish information for us. If you're a bear, I guess you can take your pick. So just you could focus on low exports. China's consumption has been dropping. We have increase in corn acres. I think the big thing is just the weather, and if the weather cooperates and El Nino comes in, we can. It's not unreasonable to hit that 181.5 bushel per acre average yield, which is going to boost production dramatically. And then, of course, you have Brazil that continues to increase their production every year as well. So I went through that pretty quick, but if you have any questions, give one of our brokers a call at 712-227-1110, or feel free to subscribe to our report at comstock.com. Thank you.